How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your February 2019 horoscope for Gemini, Sun, and Rising. How is it going, guys? Let's go ahead and just jump straight into the horoscope because this month is definitely going to get pretty intense, especially as we have 8th house, 9th house, and 10th house things going on for you guys. So to start off right at the start of the month, February 3rd, we have Venus going into Capricorn. So Venus gets out of Sagittarius in your 7th house where she's really enjoying herself within the context of relationships, where Venus now goes into your 8th house. The 8th house is about debt and death and taxes, inheritances, your partner's resources and other people's money. The 8th house is a very weird thing, and we've been talking a lot about that with Saturn. However, with Venus going into Capricorn, Venus, this planet of value where she wants to put things together, she wants to talk about love, and she wants to indulge in things. Venus is playing by the rule book with Saturn. She likes to be in Capricorn. She wants to play by the rules. She wants to have contracts. She wants to have an efficiency. She wants to have structure to things and be organized and detailed in that manner. And this is going to be happening in your 8th house. So this is really about going, hey, what are the problems with finances that you have or other people's money, especially with, other people's money could be, having to do with your paycheck or your partner's money. And Venus is going, where can I need to find the value in this. I need to actually address these problems in this situation. I need to focus my value and my emphasis on these 8th house topics. And we'll be talking more about that as we go on. However, the next day on February 4th, we have the new moon in Aquarius. And this is really good because this is in your 9th house. It's trining your sun or it's trining your ascendant. And as we have this new moon in Aquarius, the 9th house, it's happening in your 9th house. The 9th house is all about spirituality, religion, higher education, far distance travel, foreign topics, learning foreign languages, things like that. And this new moon in Aquarius is, it's both of the luminaries being focused on one sign, on one house. It's about resetting intentions. It's not an eclipse. We're kind of cleaning out energy right here. And Aquarius can make you feel very detached and alienated and isolated in what your beliefs are. However, this new moon is kind of asking you, how can you detach away from the things that don't work anymore and find a more modern solution to your beliefs or your problems, or how you can find a modern solution as far as your beliefs go to whatever your problems are. And the new moon's kind of like, hey, let's connect to something better. Let's connect to a more efficient way of creating results. Let's connect to more of the spirit of understanding and learning new things. So as this new moon happens, this is going to be a big time to really go like, hey, what are you believing? What are your beliefs? Where are you going? What do you want to learn? And how can you connect yourself to something different? How can you connect yourself to something more that what's a good way to put it? I guess has a better scope over things. It's kind of like a bird's eye perspective. So the new moon really is about like setting new intentions with what your beliefs are and what you're wanting to learn. That's kind of like really it. And then we kind of like this week break where not a lot of things happen. But then we get into February 10th where Mercury goes into Pisces. So Mercury was in your 9th house doing a lot of, philosophical thinking and whatnot. As Mercury goes into Pisces into your 10th house, this is where the themes of communication around your career, around your public image, and, more bigger life stuff is happening. But Mercury's in detriment in Pisces, where Mercury wants to communicate a message either written on paper, or like carved in stone, or like that's within, it's concise with communication, it's clear with communication. Mercury in Pisces has to kind of come up with what it needs to say at the given moment. It's kind of like going off the bat. And so as Mercury goes into Pisces, it's not communicating that message clearly. Things are kind of back and forth. It's not exactly pinpointable. And so as Mercury goes into Pisces in your 10th house, expect for more themes around your career to be prevalent, but expect things to be still a little bit foggy. And we're going to be talking a lot about Mercury as we go into this video and next month's horoscope. But a couple days later, on February 13th, we have Mars conjoining Uranus in Aries. And this is happening in your 11th house, where Uranus has been in your 11th house making friendships and groups and bigger networks of people, big ups and downs, extreme ups and downs of things. Mars has been in your 11th house where you've had a lot of energy being, kind of poured into your friendships and your groups and stuff like that. However, it could also be causing you some problems, some irritations, and some frustrations. Mars on top of Uranus is kind of like liberating yourself away from the negative, I don't want to even say just the negative, but the things that bring problems and irritations within your friend group. Within your networks and your connection, Mars on top of Uranus is kind of like over it. Mars on top of Uranus is like, this person isn't serving me, these people are not serving me, and they're holding me back from where I want to go. Mars on top of Uranus is like kind of liberating and breaking through, you know, people that are holding you down in those bigger groups of relationships. So this is going to be a positive thing. It is going to be extreme, I'll let you know that, so definitely be aware. However, the next day, on Valentine's Day, February 14th, Mars goes into Taurus, where this is where things get really weird. Mars goes into detriment when he goes into Taurus. He doesn't operate as well because Mars wants to be in Aries or Scorpio where he has the energy, he has the drive, he's laser focused, and he's got this, you know, infinite amount of energy. Mars in Taurus has a very finite amount of energy. Mars in Taurus can deal with laziness and stubbornness. It's Mars in a fixed sign. It's not moving anywhere. And Mars is a malefic. He's causing severity. He's causing irritation and problems and frustration. And we find this happening in your 12th house. And the 12th house is of your subconscious, of your repressed parts of yourself, things that you don't acknowledge, things that you don't always really see and that can be hidden or blinding. And as Mars goes through Taurus through your 12th house, expect this for you to be a time to be like, okay, there's problems and I'm struggling with realizing what they are and taking action on them. Mars in Taurus, it could be just having issues with, like, there's issues coming from somewhere, you're having this laziness, but it's just hard to pinpoint where exactly it's coming from. The biggest thing, though, with Mars in Taurus is that Mars in Taurus is only going to take action on the things that it finds most valuable. So as Mars is in Taurus, while it's in your 12th house, this is a good time to really look at what's worth acting upon. What's worth putting action into, and what's worth putting your energy into since you have so little of it right now. And what's worth addressing, I guess, when it comes to repressing unacknowledged parts of yourself. This is Taurus. This is a very stubborn sign. It's going to be easy for you to be like, no, I'm fine. Don't say that this month. Let yourself feel it out. So then we move on a couple days later on February 16th. So just so you guys know, it's like the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th. We kind of have like back-to-back stuff happening. On the 16th, it's not really a big thing, but Venus sextiles Neptune. And so Venus is in Capricorn in your 8th house where it's kind of like, hey, you know, you need to get control of your debt or your finances or other people's money. Things are kind of going haywire in that area. As Venus is sextiling Neptune, though, this is a good opportunity for the Neptune in your 10th house of your career and your public eye, where Neptune can bring a lot of different things to, you know, what your career looks like and what you're doing in this world. Venus in your 8th house is like, I need to focus and address on my finances and my resources on this part, and especially working with other people's money. And that sextile is kind of like, hey, the more and more you focus on getting yourself out of the debt or focusing on your finances or just really going through change, you're going to find that being supported by the opportunities that present themselves to you in the context of your career. Not a big deal. It's just a little sextile to Neptune. However, it is going to feel a little bit, you know, there's just going to be opportunities in the air, like magic's in the air almost in a sense. Then the next day, though, we get pretty serious because we have Venus conjoining Saturn in Capricorn. Where Venus conjoining Saturn is like Saturn's bringing some problems in your 8th house, other people's money's going away, it's constraining, it's concentrating on where money's coming from. Venus on top of Saturn is like, okay, I really need to plump this up a little bit. Like Saturn in your 8th house is other people's money, finances, resources, as well as death, as well as transformation. It's just this cold and cruel time. And Venus going on top of it has to go, I have to enjoy disciplining myself. I have to enjoy following the rules, and I gotta find value in doing that in order to get myself out of this situation, in order to really build up some progress. So that's gonna be a pretty big deal for you guys. But then the next day, this is when we got a couple things happening. On February 18th, we have the sun going into Pisces, so the theme around your career and what you're doing, in public vocation, public image, and I, that's gonna be more of the theme with the sun going there. However, Mercury is going to conjoin Neptune on this day, and he's going to enter shadow. So as Mercury conjoins Neptune, he's going to basically project a lot of the imagery around what Neptune is about. And as Mercury's kind of speaking on behalf of Neptune, where Neptune is about duality, Neptune is about illusion and fog and mysticism and spirituality, Mercury on top of Neptune is going, what do I really want to do? What does my career look like? What do things really look like at the top of the sky? And as Mercury enters shadow, this is something that we're going to be coming back to. Mercury's later going to retrograde, and he's going to come back to this degree on top of Neptune and station direct, and then go forward again. So we're going to be talking a lot about this next month. However, Mercury on top of Neptune is expect for there to be confusion, unclarity, and uncertainty, and as well as it's going to make you feel like you have to be very dualistic about what you're doing with your career. So we'll be talking more about that more next month, but expect those themes to come up. Chiron also goes into Aries on this day too, which is kind of important. I did a whole video on Chiron and Aries. Make sure you guys go check that out. And as Chiron locks himself into Aries in your 11th house, this is where the 10th house themes of career and public vocation, that's all been healed and done with. Now it's time to address the healing and the pain around what you deal with friendships and stuff like that. So definitely check out the Chiron and Aries video. The next thing though is the next day on February 19th, we have the full moon in Virgo. And this is really important as we have this Mercury and Sun stuff going on in Pisces in your 10th house of career. This full moon in Virgo is lighting up your 4th house of your family, of your home life, of your living situation. It has to do with, you know, like basically anything in the context of where you live, how you live, your parents, where you came from, your ancestry, your history. 4th house has a lot to do with where you center yourself to, where you're really grounded in. And this full moon in Virgo is just bringing a lunation. It's bringing light to an area that we don't always see. And this lunation is happening in Virgo. It's being specific. It's showing you the things that you need to see and that you need to understand. And the full moon is just basically like, hey, with what changes are going on in your career, where do you need to center yourself and where do you need to be more attentive in the home place? Where do you need to be more attentive with your family? Where do you need to be more attentive with where you're centering yourself in your family life and your home life and your parents and things of that nature? Mercury is also going to be sextiling Saturn on the 19th as well. And as Mercury sextiles Saturn, Saturn's in the 8th house, you know, he can be bringing a lot of problems in this area. Mercury sextiling it though is kind of like, okay, there's some benefits and there's some so far good news and some good messages going on in your career to help mitigate that Saturn stuff. But it's not exactly going to be perfect or amazing yet just because Mercury's going to later retrograde and do his thing. Like it's still not clear, although it's looking good and looking supportive. The next big thing, the last 3 things actually, on February 22nd, we have Venus conjoining Pluto. And Pluto's been going through your 8th house for quite some time, leaving a path of destruction and devastation in that 8th house area of death and transformation and, again, taxes and inheritances and things of that. And basically, 8th house is other people's stuff. So with Pluto going through there, that's been one thing. But Venus going through there and going on top of Pluto is basically going, what has caused destruction and calamity, and where can I salvage parts of this to really bring some value and emphasis? Venus on top of Pluto is kind of like, things have been bad before, but I'm doing what needs to be done right now in order for that to not happen again. This is bringing value to Pluto things like, hey, things have been destroyed, but it's leaving room for new growth. It's leaving room for new plants. It's like, you know, I lived in Southern California and I talk about this a lot. It's like, you know, we get fires in the summer and then we get the rain in the winter and the fall, and by springtime we have all these new green plants growing, and that's kind of like Venus on top of Pluto. It's like, yeah, sure, it was really bad, you know, a couple thousand acres burned down, but there's new life that's coming, and that's Venus on top of Pluto, where you have to emphasize that even though it's going to feel like it's not there. Anyway, on I keep saying January 22nd. On February 22nd, we also have Mercury squaring Jupiter. And he's going to square Jupiter about 2 more times as he retrogrades and comes back. However, as Mercury squares Jupiter, this is kind of like Jupiter in your 7th house of, oh, the theme of relationships is abundant. Jupiter is wanting to bring you better relationships and bring better people into your life. Mercury squaring Jupiter is, maybe that's not flying in your career area though. Where is the opportunity and the fun stuff happening in your relationship that may be kind of causing some confusion, some misunderstanding in your career context? This could also be miscommunications with coworkers that you work with, like, or not necessarily employees because that's the 6th house, but more individual relationships in the career context. So be aware of that, but we're going to be talking about that again. Not only I'm doing a Mercury retrograde video too, but I'll be talking about that in March when Mercury actually retrogrades. Whew. And then the last 2 things is Venus conjoins the South Node on February 25th. And the South Node is in your 8th house too, where it's like, you've got to wrap this up. Like, it's go time. You got to wrap this up. You got to let go of this stuff. You got to figure out this 8th house stuff so you can move on from it. Go towards the 2nd house where your money is, and you can start making money rather than paying off debts or something like that. And as Venus hits the South Node, this is kind of looking back and going, what worked in the past and what didn't? And where can I bring in that value and implement that value? But this is also looking at the past and going, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm fucking over this. It's time to move on to something else. Venus on the South Node is, I learned what I learned. It's time to implement something new because that doesn't work anymore. So this is going to be really important as Venus goes over the South Node, so make sure you pay attention on February 25th. And then the last thing is on February 27th, we have Mercury sextiling Venus, and it's just another little sextile. It's not that crazy, but as Venus is in your 8th house, wanting to help you get your shit together with 8th house topics, Mercury in your 10th house is themes of, you know, your career stuff is kind of under, I don't want to say under construction, but it's very malleable. Mercury sextiling Venus is like, all right, there's a better sense of understanding of, or a better idea of what's going on in your career that's really going to help you apply the things that you need to apply in that 8th house area. And that's February. Like, again, February is really not a long month. Not a lot happens. Things really slow down and things really change. But that's basically February. It's really focusing on, like, get your 8th house stuff together. And if you have no debt, if you are free and clear of that stuff, you're single, you don't have a partner's finances to worry about, so you're probably sitting there thinking, well, what does the 8th house have to do with me? The 8th house has a lot to do with fears and anxieties and changes. And so as Venus goes over here, it's about facing the fear. It's about going, I can handle this and I want to handle this. It's kind of like when you're just over, you're over it. You're just tired and you just want to get it handled. That's kind of like the theme for your 8th house of changing and dealing with your fears and your anxieties and things like that. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching and liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing, and I'll be seeing you guys next month.